The office of President Volodymyr Zelensky says Ukrainian forces have launched a new offensive in Russia's Kursk region. Ukrainian troops have occupied Russian soil since August, when they first advanced into the Kursk area, and have resisted efforts to expel them. Russian media, citing the country's defense ministry, say their troops have so far repelled these latest Ukrainian advances. Well, for more, let's speak now to Marina Miron. She is a military analyst with the Defence Studies Department at King's College in London. Marina, great to see you as always. So, what do you make of the timing of this latest advance of Ukrainian troops in Kursk?
Good evening, Pablo. Well, if you will look at the Ukrainian media and media reports, the Ukrainians have been indicating that they would launch another offensive on the Russian forces, not saying where, since end of November. And so this has been already in the information space. Now, knowing that Donald Trump is about to enter the Oval Office on January 20th, Ukraine wants to position itself in a better place if it comes to potential negotiations. Now, what we have to understand about this push now is that it could be a diversion, because there are concentrations of Ukrainian troops along the border with the Bryansk region and also with the Belgorod region. So it might be there to divert attention, and there is a potential about this counteroffensive that has been kind of already in the media space taking place somewhere else.
All right, I just want to ask you a little bit more about what you said there, is that to position itself in the case of, say, negotiations. Of course, we're talking about Donald Trump is coming to office in less than 3 weeks now. So what is Ukraine's strategy then? Is it changing it, would we say?
It seems to be the same strategy that we have seen since the initial incursion into the Kursk region. It was supposed to have a military effect, of course, to divert Russian forces from the Donbass, but it was also there for the political effect, for potential negotiations. And Ukraine is in a bad place right now, because Ukraine is fully dependent on Western aid. There is uncertainty in terms of what the Trump administration might bring when it comes to continued support of Ukraine. European countries are already worried how they are going to fill this potential gap created by the US withdrawing its aid to Ukraine. And of course, we have the issue with the manpower. So now Ukraine has this unique opportunity to make this last push to demonstrate that it's still willing to fight, and that it's capable of taking at least a small sliver of territory, which doesn't have any strategic meaning from a military perspective, but a political significance.
Marina, you mentioned manpower there. So does Ukraine have enough manpower to hold the territory in Kursk much longer?
Well, it seems it has enough manpower to do so right now. And the question is, does it have manpower, or is it the Russian side not willing to invest more efforts into drawing the Ukrainians out? And from a military perspective, of course, for the Russians, it is very good to keep the Ukrainians there, to stretch the line of contact as much as possible, because we've seen since the Ukrainians have taken some settlements in the Kursk region, including Sudzha, the Russians have been making very fast advances in the Donbass, because the Ukrainians have not been able to plug those holes. So for the Russians, it is an advantage, certainly, and generally speaking, as far as Ukraine is concerned, there will be probably a new law lowering the age of those who can be drafted. I'm not sure that if the government will go as far as 18 years old, but there have been some indications of those 18 and up to basically present themselves until the beginning of February. So the problem is very severe for Ukraine.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks, Marina. Marina Miron, military analyst with King's College in London.
Thank you for having me.